They never raise their voice, they never beg for attention, and yet the moment they walk into a room, something shifts. The air changes, conversations pause, and eyes follow them without anyone quite knowing why. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what they are doing with their body that most people will never figure it out on their own. But here's the thing, the answer isn't what you think it is. There is a silent war happening in every room you enter. Not with words, not with arguments, but with the way you hold your shoulders, the pace of your steps, the direction of your gaze. Dominant people understood this long before anyone taught them the science behind it. They learned, consciously or not, that the body speaks before the mouth opens. And what your body says in the first 7 seconds of meeting someone determines almost everything that follows. Most people spend their whole lives trying to earn respect through what they say. They rehearse conversations, choose their words carefully, craft their arguments, and still they feel overlooked. Still, they are fighting for space in rooms where others seem to belong naturally. That feeling, that quiet frustration of being present but invisible, is exactly what we are going to dismantle today, because the problem was never your words. Here's what nobody tells you. Dominant body language is not about aggression. It is not about dominance in the primitive, territorial sense. The people who project the most authority are not the ones who puff their chest and invade your personal space. They are the ones who have mastered something far more sophisticated and far more difficult to detect. Something that operates beneath the surface of every interaction, pulling invisible strings, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Let's start with stillness. The average person, when nervous, when uncertain, when seeking approval, moves constantly. They fidget, they touch their face, they shift their weight from foot to foot. These micro movements are not random, they are signals, and dominant people read them immediately. Because stillness, real stillness, communicates one thing above all else. I have nothing to prove. The person who can sit without moving in a tense meeting, who can hold eye contact without blinking away first, who can let silence stretch without rushing to fill it, that person is communicating power on a frequency that bypasses rational thought and goes straight into instinct. Now, think about the last time you felt truly seen by someone. Not just looked at, seen. There is a specific kind of attention that powerful people deploy, and it feels different from regular attention. It feels like gravity. This is not an accident. Dominant individuals have learned to direct their focus with intention, making whoever they are speaking to feel like the only person in the room until they withdraw that attention and you feel this absence like a physical thing. That withdrawal is not cruelty, it is calibration. And it creates something in the other person that no amount of charm or clever words ever could. Desire for approval. This is where the emotional core of this topic lives, because underneath all of this, underneath the posture, the eye contact, the stillness, there is a primal fear that lives in almost every human being. The fear of not being enough, the fear of being dismissed. Dominant body language doesn't just project confidence outward. It dismantles that fear inward, and that distinction is everything. The person who has resolved their own need for external validation moves differently. They speak at a slower pace because they are not afraid of the silence between words. They occupy more physical space not because they are trying to intimidate, but because they have stopped shrinking. The way dominant people use space is one of the most studied and least understood aspects of this topic. It is not about taking up as much room as possible. That is the mistake that most people make when they try to appear confident. It is about the quality of the space they inhabit. They do not hover at the edges of rooms. They do not angle their bodies away from confrontation. They face things directly, physically, literally, and that directness communicates a willingness to engage that most people unconsciously avoid. When you turn your body fully towards someone, you are saying, I'm not afraid of you. And that message lands before a single word is spoken. There is something else happening beneath the surface that very few people ever address. Dominant individuals have a particular relationship with time. They do not rush. They do not react immediately. When someone challenges them verbally, physically, emotionally, they pause. That pause is no hesitation. It is control. It says, I choose when I respond, and my response will be on my terms. In a world that rewards instant reaction, the person who can delay their response by even 3 seconds holds a disproportionate amount of power in any interaction. And yet, almost no one practices this because it feels dangerous, because silence feels like losing. But here's the reversal that changes everything. In most human interactions, the first person to feel silence loses. This is counterintuitive. It goes against every social instinct we have been trained to follow. We are taught to be agreeable, to keep conversation flowing, to avoid awkward pauses. And that training, well-intentioned as it is, quietly hands our power to whoever is willing to wait longer. The dominant person waits, not out of coldness, but out of certainty. Certainty that what they have to say is worth the wait. Now, we arrive at something more subtle and more powerful than anything we have discussed so far. It is the question of congruence. Every human being has an internal alarm system that detects mismatch between words and body. You have felt it before. Someone tells you everything is fine and your gut tells you it is not. Someone says they are confident and something in their posture tells you otherwise. Dominant people are congruent. Their body, their words, and their energy are aligned. And that alignment creates a kind of credibility that cannot be faked. It can only be built, and it is built from the inside out, not the outside in. This is the part most content about body language gets wrong. They give you techniques, stand like this, hold eye contact for this many seconds, use this handshake, and some of those techniques are useful. But applied without the internal foundation, they feel hollow. People sense the performance. What you're actually trying to project is a state, not a posture. The posture is the symptom of the state. Change the state, and the body follows naturally. And the state that produces dominant body language is not arrogance, it is not aggression, it is a deep, quiet, unshakable sense of self-worth that has been earned through self-knowledge. Remember the question we opened with. Why is it that some people command the room without even raising their voice? Here is the answer. Complete now, because they have stopped auditioning. They walked in already knowing their value. And when you know your value, your body simply stops performing the behaviors that betray insecurity. The stillness comes naturally. The directness comes naturally. The patience comes naturally. Not because you learn a technique, but because you resolve the internal question that drives all of this. The question every human being is unconsciously answering with their body every single day: do I believe I belong here? Dominant body language is not a mask. It is the physical expression of a person who has answered that question with a clear and ambiguous yes. That is the only technique that was ever worth learning, and now you know exactly where to start.